right, New Mexico, we're back with you here at the U Sports Report. We're about to talk baseball with the Mav, but first, we're going to enjoy a lovely beverage brought to you by Bosey Brothers. That's right, Bosey Brothers Brewery right down there on 6th and Gold, downtown Albuquerque. Fantastic beer. We want to thank the guys for helping us quench our thirst.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Mav, how's it going?
It's going well, Khalil. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're going to look at some of these baseball standings, as baseball season is early, but we're still in the thick, and we can get a layout of the landscape and see what's going on.
Indeed.
So we're going to start off with the AL East.
My favorite division.
Favorite, yeah. I got to give you what you love, the best. So we have Baltimore on top with the 18-12 record, with Boston just tied with them, basically, 19-13. Toronto, Tampa Bay, and the Yankees are behind. Toronto and Tampa Bay are 500. The Yankees are 6 games below 500. What do you think so far with this division?
I see that the bats are coming out strong in the early season. Baltimore is one of the best hitting teams in the game.
Okay.
As is Boston. Boston, I believe, leads the league in runs.
Yes.
So the pitching has not quite settled in and started to establish its dominance yet. So I think we're seeing the front-running teams right now with the big bats, Baltimore being obviously one of them, but I don't see this staying this way through the season. I don't think Baltimore has the pitching to maintain.
To keep it up. If you look at it, I mean, the Yankees are at the bottom of the division, and they're only 6 games back.
Yeah, the Yankees will be right up there in the mix soon enough. They'll make adjustments. They have the ability to move laterally.
Gotcha.
More than any team in the American League.
Yeah.
So I see them being there. They'll be in the wild card. I think Boston is a more well-rounded team, and they will stay up top.
Okay.
Whereas Baltimore will fade.
Baltimore, I mean, Boston is actually going on the last 10 games, 7-3, with a 2-game winning streak to really take them and to tie up the lead.
And they took the series from Chicago, who has the best record in the American League right now. So that's a good sign.
That says something. Speaking about Chicago, we're going to the AL Central. Chicago White Sox on top with 23-10 record. Then it gets a lot of parity. Cleveland 15-14, Kansas City 15-16, Detroit 3 games under 500 at 14-17, and we're not even going to mention Minnesota 8-23. Those guys are pretty much done. They're 14 games back. You can say they're just going to sit there for the rest of the season. Minnesota.
Yeah, they're too young. They're not ready to dance with the big boys yet.
Okay.
I see this division, which is always the hardest one for me to pick.
Why?
Because these teams are, they're very unpredictable, and I think that it's like watching a NASCAR race at Talladega. One team is up front, then they drop back, another team takes over. When it settles, I don't think Chicago's going to be on top.
Oh, you think the Indians, Cleveland is going to pull
Well,
it out?
Cleveland and Kansas City.
Okay.
Kansas City is a powerhouse team.
Yeah.
So, and Cleveland has great pitching. They're well coached and a bit more well-rounded, I think.
All right. All right. I like that. I like that. Moving on to the AL West. Seattle. Yes, you heard me right. The Seattle Mariners are on top 19-13. Next, you follow Texans, 1.5 games behind at 18-15. You got the Oakland Athletics, 14-19. The LA Angels, underachieving, 13-18. And the Houston Astros, 13-20. What is going on with Houston and LA? These are teams that you thought would be pushing for dominance in their division.
Houston benefited from moving to the American League and baseball parity. And so they got extra draft picks. They went to a softer division, and they made a nice run last year. But they're not as good as they played last year.
Okay.
And reality is coming down on them. The Angels have been the most overhyped American League team for years. They've produced very little, and I don't see them doing anything this year. This division is, to me, the weakest division in baseball, and I think this is Texas's division to own.
So you don't think Seattle's going to maintain this momentum they have?
Once again, they're benefiting from the bats.
Benefiting from the bats earlier on in the season. Okay, so you say this is one of the weakest divisions, and it's never really impressed you. The Angels, they got Pujols, they got Mike Trout. What is up with them?
Well, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with Mike Trout, because they're not going to upswing.
Ah.
And so, Mike Trout is now compromising some of his better years with a very mediocre team.
Okay, so it's one of those players who the prime of his career is going to be wasted on a team that's not putting the complementary players around him so they can advance further.
Indeed, that could very well be the scenario.
Wow, that is something else. Let's hope it's not, because Mike Trout is one of those young players that makes you excited to see the game. Okay, we're going to move it out. We're going to stay in the West, but the National League West. We've got the San Francisco Giants, the LA Dodgers, and Arizona. Look, this division, once again, only separated by 5 games. San Francisco leads the division at 17-17, and the Dodgers tie him at 16-16. What is up with these teams barely winning?
Well, these two teams are built to play each other. And so, they've been the front runner in that division for years. Dodgers, Giants, Dodgers, Giants. I think it's an exciting division. I like what Arizona's done.
Yeah.
They need to mesh. They need to, get their gears engaged, and I think they'll make a nice run at the end of the year.
Okay, Arizona, you believe?
Arizona.
What about the Rockies?
I think the Rockies, they're fun, they're spirited, but they don't have the depth in pitching to really hang in there. And I don't think the Dodgers are sitting too pretty right now. Either they will have to make moves with their payroll, or they're just going to have to deal with what they have. And the Dodgers don't seem patient enough to do that.
They're just throwing out money willy-nilly?
Yeah, and I don't think that's really the way to build a club unless you're the Yankees. The Yankees have been the only team to be able to build a club like that.
Yeah, they've been doing it for so many years that people know. You go to the Yankees, you get paid, you play, you have a chance of winning it all.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right, let's take a look at the NL East. The Mets. Nice shirt you got there.
Yeah, I'm a Mets fan.
That's right, as am I. As am I. The Mets are up top with a half game over the Washington Nats. Philadelphia is coming in 2.5 games out of first place. Miami's got a winning record, and then Atlanta representing the bottom at 7 wins. We're just going to completely skip over the Atlanta Braves because they won 7. They're 7-23. It's not even.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress, a long work in progress. But every other team in the division is winning games. Miami, Philly, Washington, and the Mets are up top. What do you think about that mix?
Best division in baseball,
Okay.
in my opinion. I think that these teams are built for the long haul. And so Washington is going to stay strong. I think they'll be battling with the Mets all year. Philadelphia surprised everybody at this point. And I don't think Philadelphia is going to fade. And I think they've got a strong young team. They'll be energetic through the season. And I look for Philly to kind of hang around.
Philly, excuse me, that beer's good. One more time. Philly to hang around and to possibly flirt at a wild card spot?
Yeah, I'd say flirt with 500.
Flirt with 500.
Yeah.
Hey, that's pretty good when you're Philly.
That's pretty good,
You know what I'm
considering
saying?
they're totally in a transition.
Yeah.
So I would give them props for having anywhere close to 500.
Okay, I like that.
The Mets, though, the Mets are the team. They've got the most runs right now. That's why they're sitting on top of the division.
Okay.
In most runs in baseball, which is shocking because the Mets have not been able to deliver runs very reliably over the years.
I mean, well, when they started delivering runs is when they went on that amazing World Series run that they started last year.
Cespedes.
Cespedes came in and they were able to score runs to match with the stellar pitching they were having. And now they've been able to keep the bats alive. The pitching, Matt Harvey has faded a little bit, but it's early in the season.
It's early, and he's a bit of a eccentric pitcher, I think. I think his emotions govern a lot of his pitching style. I saw Matt's pitch last night, and he was just devastating. I mean, this guy can pitch.
So if he's feeling good,
Yeah.
you know he's going to give you a good 7-8 innings on the bump.
He could, and I think the more the season progresses, the more he'll get his stride.
Now, do you think he's a young guy? Do you think the pressures of living in New York City, playing for the Mets, even though they're not the Yankees, it's the Mets, do you think that's getting to him?
I do not think it's getting to him. I think he's Broadway Matt.
Broadway Matt.
And I think he loves it. And I think in some way he is the leader of the pitching staff.
Okay.
So he can deflect some of the media. He can kind of take on some of that role and keep the other guys focused.
Okay. Now let's take a look at the Central. Team with the best record in baseball, the Chicago Cubs. That's right, the Chicago Cubs, ladies and gentlemen. All you Back to the Future fans who were excited about last year, it didn't happen. Well, the Cubs have only come out and they've just kicked everybody's butt.
This is the black and blue division.
All right.
The reason it's the black and blue division, more players get hit by pitches in this division than any other division.
Okay.
And these guys don't like each other. Chicago, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis do not like each other.
So they just ignore Cincinnati and Milwaukee.
Cincinnati and Milwaukee have put themselves out of contention.
Okay.
On the rebuilding process.
Yes. But those three at the top,
those three at
Chicago,
the top.
Pittsburgh, St. Louis.
And that's going to be the grittiest, dirtiest, roughest series in all of baseball this year, those three teams.
Those three teams going at it. It's almost like the AFC North.
A bit
How you
like
got
that.
the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bengals, and hopefully the Browns stepping into the mix. You know that those are always bloodbath games. We can
Absolutely.
expect the same coming out of this in
Absolutely.
baseball.
In fact, it just started to reveal itself in the last series with Pittsburgh and Chicago.
Okay. Yeah.
Guys are starting to get plunked. Sean Rodriguez is starting to fly off, talking. It's going to get wild this summer.
Now, in situations like that, where it's wild, do you think leadership on the team truly makes a difference? Because if you look at leadership, of course, St. Louis has plenty of leaders on there, but I'm really impressed with Mr. McCutchen in Pittsburgh.
McCutchen is great. Pittsburgh has really finally locked in a really good team. You know, all the years of not performing well, and then finally getting to the playoffs after 20 years. Now they're here. They've arrived this year.
Yeah.
This is the year I think that they can win a division, and I think this is the year that they can make a decent playoff representation.
Okay, they can make a playoff representation, but we got the Chicago Cubs. Everybody loves them.
People love the
Everybody's
Cubs.
favorite, Mr. Arrieta, 6-0.
6-0, and
Looking
they're
good.
they're hitting the ball all over the place. However, I just don't believe the Cubs have the pitching, and I know Theo
Outside of Arrieta.
outside of Arrieta, and I have a feeling he might get figured out.
Yeah. That eventually that's going to happen.
They're
pretty soon.
going to start to figure him out,
Okay.
and that's where the Cubs could have some trouble. I have them in the wild card.
All right, so we're looking good. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the standings rundown with the Mav on baseball so far. Heed his words and proceed knowing what you now know, because it's more than you knew before. All right, we're going to sign it off. That is us. That is it for us at the U Sports Report. We're going to get to the rest of this growler. For Kimbry Temple, Tyler Ortega, Mr. Rod Maverick Parker, I am Khalil A. Colonna. We will see you on Thursday, and stay up on the sports, New Mexico, because we will.